The latest, losing 122 to 111 to the Pistons, in which KD did not play. Here's a frustrated Kyrie after the game.
I don't think that we go out every single day of our lives and sacrifice the time in order to be average at anything. And we look very average, and we have the talent that the eye test presents that we should be dominating.
All right, airing out that dirty laundry, we now welcome in Big Perk. Max, what do you think the Nets' biggest flaw is right now?
Well, I've said in the past, and I've said until now, it's defense, but I want to take it a level deeper. The real issue with the Nets, and this has to do with the defense and the results and everything, is they have a thin roster. I mean, when you really look at what just happened, they came into the year, I didn't even think they needed James Harden to get out of the East. Then Dinwiddie got hurt. And what that meant was the way they addressed the fact that now they were short one of their playmakers was to trade two more of their best pieces, other than obviously KD and Kyrie, in order to get even more top-heavy, because James Harden will offset that. So they bring in James Harden. Now, they're an extremely top-heavy group. But if they're missing one of their pieces, which they were, KD, last night, they're really short-handed because of the lack of depth on the roster. And what that means, it has, defensively, obviously they have work to do. But what the top heaviness of the roster means is you're really relying on those guys to take you there. This is a COVID year. They're not practicing. It's a brand new group. They're relying on the talent of the big three to overcome that, to overcome a lack of depth. And by the way, even defense, that's not just effort, it's communication. Hard to get that together when you're bringing a whole bunch of guys together and you can't practice like a normal season. Things are just different. So really what you're relying on, especially early in the season, is, look, the three of you guys are so talented, you're going to overcome these shortcomings while we get the defense together, while we get used to each other, while maybe before the deadline we bring in a piece to play some defense, grab some defensive boards. Jeff Green is a useful player still, especially as a 4. As a 5, when you're playing small ball, you're not going to play any defense. You're not going to stop people. You're not going to get rebounds. So with that thin roster, when they're missing KD, it's too much. Perk, since the Harden trade, they are the worst defensive team of all time. But they're able to win a lot because they're one of the best offensive teams of all time. Now you take your best player out, the offense isn't good enough to make up for the defensive shortcomings. The number one flaw is they're top-heavy and thin.
Well, Max, look, I don't disagree with nothing you just said, but I'm gonna take it a step further. And they're right, they can't stop a nosebleed. Their defense is horrible, but you could put in all the schemes, you could watch all the film. It has to come within. Now, if we were talking about a group of young guys, then it would be a difference. Guys that have won level, guys that have won championships, guys that have won finals MVPs, guys like James Harden, a guy like James Harden who hasn't won a championship, but he's battle tested. He knows how to get to the finals. He knows what it takes to advance in the postseason. So when I look at it, I'm looking at the lack of accountability and watching the Nets, watching them blow coverage after coverage after coverage, time and time again, shows me that it's a lack of accountability in their locker room. And people are not holding each other accountable. When I was on the Celtics, the first thing that happened is guys bought in defensively. Yeah, you had Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. You knew you were going to get buckets. But they bought in on the defensive side, and they also allowed Doc Rivers to hold them accountable. You could tell the teams that are well coached and get held accountable. The Utah Jazz, the way that they're flying around, the way that
so are you saying Steve Nash is the issue?
I'm saying it's a lack of accountability, however you want to paint it. I'm not ducking or hiding. I'm telling you what's going on. When you look at a championship team and you look at these guys blowing defensive coverages and not giving the right effort, that goes to show me that somebody is not holding these guys accountable. Whether it's Steve Nash, whether it's Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden not holding each other accountable, doing film session or doing walkthrough, something is not right. And that's what I'm telling you, Max. We could talk about their defense, and I get it. That defense is horrible. But when you're vets, DeAndre Jordan, Jeff Green, all these veteran guys, it's not rocket science. Like, you can look, you can see what's going on once you see them blowing coverages.
One thing I'll say is Steve Nash is a rookie head coach who was not known for his defense, nor did he play on a team that was known for their defense, needless to say. And Mike D'Antoni, who's there as, some experience on the bench, also obviously was not known for his defense. Way before I ever heard Stephen A. say that Jamie Foxx called him Antony, no D, I was making that same joke, Perk, on LA radio when D'Antoni was it. That's Mike Antony, no D. I mean, so that, yes, that's part of it. But let me say something. Those Phoenix Suns teams without great defense made playoff runs every year. They got deep. And even right now, if you look at, I talk about their offensive efficiency versus their defensive efficiency. Worst ever versus almost best ever, right? But when you split the difference, they're actually in the middle of the pack. When you say, okay, add it all up, what's their point differential? I think it's 0.2 points or something like that, which puts them squarely in the middle, 15th in the NBA. And a team like that, you're expecting to win as much as they lose as much as they win. The difference here is they have three guys who can all play hero ball. As much as people say, oh, it's not about hero ball, we all know if you have three dudes who can all get their own shots at an historically elite level and hit them from anywhere at an historically elite level, those close games, you're going to win a lot of them. If you have three dudes like that's never really happened before on that level, you're going to win a lot of them. But if one of those dudes is missing, Perk, if one of them is missing, a lot of that, especially if it's your best guy, that firepower that you have to rely on, it ain't going to be there. And that's their top heavy and thin. You mentioned DeAndre Jordan and Jeff Green. DeAndre Jordan can give you some minutes, and Jeff Green can still play. That is true. But if you're relying on DeAndre Jordan and Jeff Green, and even Joe Harris, who can shoot the lights out, every NBA team has guys like that. What NBA teams don't have are the big three. But big two ain't going to be enough.
Yeah, but Max, my point to you is that when you look at a team like the Los Angeles Lakers, and you look at Anthony Davis and LeBron James, they're two superstars, and you watch how they take pride in setting the tone defensively, and you hear about how they hold each other accountable and challenge each other on the defensive end. I'm looking at it, and I know that Frank Vogel is holding them accountable. When you used to watch the San Antonio Spurs and watch the great Greg Popovich meet Tim Duncan at half court, getting in his face about blowing the defensive, that's holding the guy accountable. When you used to watch the Boston Celtics and watch Doc Rivers meet Kevin Garnett at half court, giving him the business about blowing the defensive assignment, that's accountability, Max. And what I'm telling you is I don't see that right now. So we could talk about, we know that their defense is horrible, but somebody got to hold them accountable. Because if they come out on the court making the same mistakes time and time again, then you have to address this issue. It's accountability.
Yeah, and Max, you already mentioned that the Nets, since the James Harden trade, have the worst defensive efficiency in the league. But other than that, they also have 7 straight games where they've given up at least 120 points, and that is only 1 game shy of matching the longest streak in history. So they have some definite work to do. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there. We have some mock drafts to talk about coming up. Todd McShay, he is back at it, and he has some bold predictions.